"You don't belong here." He said it loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. Gregory Vance, general manager of the Horizon Grand, didn't whisper. His words landed like a verdict funnel, sharp, laced with certainty. The sentence sliced through the soft jazz and marble silence like a gavel through glass. Guests at the front desk turned. A concierge froze mid-tight. A bellhop paused mid-step, wheeling a Louis Vuitton suitcase toward the elevator. Every eye shifted to the woman standing 3 feet from the reception, dressed in a plain black t-shirt, dark jeans, and sneakers. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just blinked once slow, unbothered. But inside her chest, the old ache sparked again. Not pain, not surprise. Familiarity, because she had heard those words before. In Charlotte, age 16. In San Diego, age 22 in Paris. Event disguised in French but meaning the same. Not rich enough, not white enough, not welcome. Now, at 10:43 a.m. in a Seattle lobby she helped design, she was hearing it again. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Aisha. The man didn't ask for her name, didn't check her ID, didn't wonder why she walked in so calmly and said, "Reservation under Carter, penthouse suite." He just looked at her brown skin, no makeup, no luggage, no Louis Vuitton, and decided she was in the wrong place. "This isn't the walk-in level," he added with a chuckle. "You'll need to step aside before I call security." She looked down, not out of shame, but calculation. Her voice was even. "You can do what you need to." He smiled, misreading her tone. "We don't tolerate scams here." Behind him, 2 employees watched in silence. Kevin, a junior clerk, arms folded like a guard dog, and Lauren, the front desk supervisor, eyes narrowed, already reaching for the house phone. Across the room, a guest, Sophie Lynn, 32, travel blogger, glanced up from her espresso. She pulled out her phone, whispered to her friend, "I think this is about to go viral." Gregory pointed toward the door. "Miss, I won't ask again." Aisha didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there anchored like a mountain no storm could move. Because she had not come to beg, she had come to observe. And in 9 minutes, they'd know exactly who they were talking to. But for now, she let the storm gather. Silently, strategically, the clock above the reception desk ticked to 10:44. The countdown had begun. At 10:44 a.m., Lauren Hayes stepped from behind the desk. Not rushed, not flustered, but with the stiff confidence of someone who thought she had backup. "You're holding up real guests," she said, sharp and loud enough to echo through the marble. "Either show valid documentation or step aside." Aisha tilted her head slightly. "My name is Aisha Carter. Reservation should be under Carter. Penthouse suite." Lauren didn't blink. "We'll need to verify." Kevin Patel, arms still crossed, stepped closer. "We've had fake names before, fancy cards. High-limit fraud." Gregory grunted behind the counter. "It's always the same game." Aisha didn't reply. Instead, she reached into a slim leather sleeve and pulled out 2 items. A black Amex Centurion card and her ID. She laid them down composed. Kevin picked up the card like it was radioactive. "This looks manufactured." Aisha raised an eyebrow. "It's metal." Lauren frowned. "That doesn't mean it's real." Before Aisha could respond, a voice rang out from the sitting area near the espresso bar. "Didn't she just give you an ID and a black card?" All heads turned. Sophie Lynn had stood up now, phone still in hand. "Y'all said you wanted documentation." She gave it. "So why are we still here?" Kevin's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern you." Sophie smirked. "Oh, it does. I'm a travel blogger. I rate customer service for a living." Lauren tried to ignore her. "We still need to call corporate for this tier of reservation. High-level suites require extra screening." Behind her, Gregory nodded. "Run it through fraud protocols." Kevin placed the card and ID under a small scanner. The light blinked twice green both times. But he didn't announce it, just glanced sideways and said, "Still needs manual check." That's when Aisha said the first line that changed the room. "I'll wait. I've waited before." The words were soft, but they hit like iron, because they weren't just about this morning. They were about every bank, every restaurant, every hotel where a woman like her had to wait longer, prove harder, and smile wider. And the lobby knew it. Sophie kept filming. Across the room, a man in a navy business suit lowered his paper and watched. A young bellhop stepped off the elevator and froze mid-step, glancing between the desk and Aisha. Then another shift. Elena Ruiz, a 24-year-old concierge assistant, stepped forward from the side podium. "I saw her name this morning," she said, voice steady but low. "It's in the system. Confirmed for the penthouse. Carter, VIP clearance." Lauren turned sharply. "Elena." "She's telling the truth," Elena said louder now. "I was on the morning check-in sync." Gregory's smile vanished. Kevin said nothing. And in that stillness, Aisha didn't move, didn't gloat. She simply looked at Elena, met her eyes, nodded on scum, grateful, silent. That moment should have ended it. But instead, Gregory leaned forward, voice curling with venom. "Even if she's booked, that doesn't mean she belongs here." And with that sentence, everything snapped. Elena's jaw clenched. Sophie let out a sharp breath. The man in the navy suit stood up. "That's enough," he muttered. Aisha still didn't raise her voice. She simply pulled out her phone, tapped once. Across the lobby, a soft hum sounded as the seconds continued to slip by. It was 10:46. 3 minutes and 6 to go. "Security, please report to the front desk," Lauren said into the intercom. Her voice sharp and practiced like she'd rehearsed the line before. A murmur rippled through the lobby. Elena froze. Sophie's phone caught it all. "You're calling security?" Sophie asked, stunned. "For what?" Giving her own name. Gregory didn't answer. He turned to Kevin, locked the card. Kevin nodded, stepping toward the steel safe behind the desk. With an exaggerated motion, he opened the drawer, placed the black Amex inside, and turned the latch. The door clicked shut. "Until we verify with the bank," Kevin said, smug. "It stays with us." "That's theft," someone whispered behind Sophie. "A tourist. Maybe local, maybe not." Aisha didn't flinch. She simply said, "You're going to regret that." Gregory chuckled. "Is that a threat?" "No," she replied, calm as ever. "A prediction." Behind her, a child tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why are they being mean to the lady?" The mother didn't answer, but her eyes didn't leave Aisha. Kevin leaned on the counter now, victorious, seen the scam before. Fake reservations, fake cards, fake names. Elena stepped forward. "Her reservation is real." Lauren snapped. "You're not authorized to confirm VIP entries." "But I was there this morning. I logged the tier code myself." Gregory slammed a folder down. "Enough. You want to keep your job. You'll step back." Elena's lips parted like she wanted to speak again but didn't. That's when Aisha took one step forward. Not aggressive, not theatrical, just deliberate. "I gave you my ID. I gave you my card. I said my name. And you decided none of it mattered." Gregory's nostrils flared. "You walked in off the street. I walked into a hotel I helped design." He blinked. Sophie stopped filming for half a beat. Even Kevin's smirk wavered. "I said I'd wait," Aisha continued, "and I did. But now it's your turn." Gregory gestured toward the entryway. "Security will escort you out." Elena spoke again, louder now. "She hasn't done anything wrong." Lauren turned. "You want to go with her?" Elena didn't answer. And in the stillness that followed, the energy of the room shifted again. Guests had stopped pretending to check in. Conversations had stalled. Phones were raised. Not all recording, but ready. Because what was happening didn't feel like policy. It felt like prejudice wrapped in a smile. Then the elevator pinged. The security officer stepped into the lobby. One tall, white, mid-40s. The other younger, Latino. Glancing from clipboard to counter, Gregory waved them over. "Escort this woman outside. Fraud investigation." The taller guard frowned, We'll need confirmation of incident. She presented stolen credentials. Gregory snapped. No, Elena cut in. She didn't. All eyes turned. The younger officer raised a brow. You saw her check-in. I saw her name in the system. She's not a walk-in. She is on the books. Penthouse. Lauren hissed under her breath. Traitor. But Elena stood firm. Aisha hadn't moved. Her phone still in her hand. Still waiting. Still counting. Because the clock now read 10:48. 5 minutes and 4 to go. The taller guard adjusted his radio. Ma'am, we'll need you to come with us. Aisha turned her head slowly. Eyes calm, but voice firmer now. Based on what? Kevin answered before the guard could. Suspicion of fraud. Misuse of corporate property. Possible stolen ID. A woman near the window gasped. What? Gregory took a step closer. Emboldened. You're trespassing. And if you don't walk out now, I'll have the police involved. Aisha's eyes didn't leave the guards. Do you have confirmation of any of those accusations? The younger security officer hesitated. We were told. You were told, Aisha interrupted, by people who never ran a real check. Elena spoke again. They locked up her verified card and claimed it was fake. I saw the scanner blink green. Sophie had gone live now. The red circle on her screen glowed. We're at the Horizon Grand in Seattle. Watch closely. This is how they treat a black woman who booked the penthouse suite. Gregory hissed at her. Turn that off. Sophie didn't even acknowledge him. Behind her, a middle-aged man whispered into his phone. Yeah, it's happening. Right in front of everyone. Lauren leaned toward Kevin. She's getting traction. Shut this down before it spreads. Kevin glanced at the security guard. Take her outside. But the younger guard didn't move. Not until we verify. Gregory's face turned crimson. Do it now. The older guard stepped forward, reaching toward Aisha's shoulder. That's when she said it. One sentence. Low, even, devastating. Touch me, and you'll answer to someone who signs your security contract. The man froze mid-reach. Excuse me. He asked, stunned. You heard me. She replied. You're 5 minutes away from knowing exactly who I am. I suggest you wait. Silence washed over the lobby like cold water. Yes stood still. Kevin cleared his throat. She's bluffing. Elena's voice came again. Steel under velvet. No, she's not. Lauren stepped back. This is insane. But Aisha didn't move. Didn't raise her voice. Didn't plead. She just looked at the clock. 10:50. 2 minutes left. She brought the phone to her ear. Carla, she said softly. Initiate the escalation protocol. Phase 1. Confirm my identity on record. A calm voice answered on the other end. Confirm. Verifying now. Public systems will reflect within 90 seconds. Gregory scoffed. What are you, some influencer? Aisha finally turned to face him fully. No, I'm the founder. The words landed hard. Kevin laughed nervously. Of what? A beat passed. Then Carla's voice came again, piped through the speaker. Confirmed, Aisha Carter, founder and principal owner of Horizon Grand Holdings. Tier 0 override active. The younger security officer blinked. The older one stepped back. Lauren's knees visibly buckled. And Gregory? Gregory didn't speak, not because he had nothing to say, but because his entire story, his control, his protocol, his presumption just collapsed. 10:51 a.m. 1 minute left. But the power? It had already shifted. Gregory stepped back from the desk like the floor had shifted beneath him. No, he said, almost to himself. That's not possible. Kevin looked from the safe to Aisha, then to the security guards. Which is the owner? The younger guard confirmed, checking the alert on his internal device. Her credentials matched the override level, full operational access. Sophie whispered into her live stream. This just flipped. She owns the hotel. She owns the whole place. A guest near the elevator clapped on Sethan again. The sound echoed, crisp and defiant. Another guest joined in, then another. Elena stepped forward. I tried to tell you. Lauren backed away from the desk, her voice hollow. But she didn't look like. She caught herself. Too late. Aisha's gaze sharpened, finished its sentence. Lauren stayed silent, eyes darting around the room for an exit that no longer existed. Gregory found his voice again. Even if you're the owner, nothing known of this was professional. Aisha didn't even blink. You called security on a guest who gave her name, her card, and her ID. You called me a fraud. You locked my property in a safe. And you did it all while smiling in front of paying guests. Her tone was quiet, which only made it feel louder. Gregory opened his mouth to push back, but the older security officer cut in. Mr. Vance, he said, using the manager's full name, per the override protocol. Ms. Carter now has authority to make personnel decisions effective immediately. Kevin blinked. Wait, what? Aisha looked toward the front desk, her voice clear, direct. Kevin Patel, you locked a verified card without cause. You acted without confirmation and treated me like a threat in my own building. Kevin's mouth opened. I was following instructions. No, she interrupted. You were following your assumptions. She turned. Elena Ruiz. Elena stood straighter. Yes. Thank you for speaking up. You saw the truth, and you didn't let it slide. Elena nodded once. Her jaw trembled, but she held steady. Aisha stepped forward, not to posture, to reclaim space. Every footfall felt like a verdict. Then she stopped in front of Gregory. I want you to listen carefully, she said, because what happens next will define your career. Not the years you've worked here, not your resume. This moment. Gregory was pale now. I built this hotel with one policy above all: zero tolerance for bias masquerading as procedure. You violated that. I didn't know, Gregory mumbled. You didn't ask. Carla's voice returned through the phone, now amplified to the lobby speaker. Miss Carter, internal systems are aligned. Live feed is active. Would you like to proceed with access control update? Aisha answered without hesitation, yes. In the same moment, Gregory's tablet buzzed red. So did Kevin's and Lauren's. A small digital chime echoed through the room. System locked. Credentials revoked. Lauren gasped. My loginet's gone. Gregory stared at his screen like it had betrayed him. Kevin tried tapping buttons, but the dashboard was frozen. They were cut off. Live. Visible. Irreversible. Sophie whispered to her stream, you're watching a system purge happen in real time. She's rewriting power, right now. And just like that, 10:52 a.m. 9 minutes in, the shift was complete. The silence in the lobby wasn't quiet anymore. It was charged. Gregory's voice cracked. You ambushed us. Aisha raised an eyebrow. Ambushed? You didn't give us a chance, Lauren added, still clutching her deactivated tablet like it could protect her. I gave you my name, Aisha said. I gave you my card. I gave you every chance. You chose humiliation instead of hospitality. Behind her, guests had stopped pretending to be bystanders. A woman with a baby on her hips said loudly, this is exactly what people need to see. Sophie whispered into her live stream. She's not yelling, not cursing, just facts. That's how power moves. Gregory stepped forward again, desperation leaking from every syllable. I've worked here for 12 years, and you just erased every year in 9 minutes, Aisha said, calm but cutting. You mistook silence for weakness. That's your final mistake. Kevin still fumbled with the locked system. Is this permanent? Aisha turned to him. Would you rehire someone who made your guests feel small? He looked down, no answer. Lauren's voice was softer now. Please. I was just doing my job. No, Aisha replied. You were doing what felt safe going along with bias dressed as protocol. Then she looked around the room, addressing everyone. But here's what I do reward people who speak up. She turned to Elena. Elena, would you step behind the desk, please? Elena hesitated. Ma'am, you said what others wouldn't. You acted on integrity, not hierarchy. Elena walked behind the counter slowly, past Lauren's stunned face, and stood where she'd never been allowed to, where she belonged. Aisha nodded, effective immediately. Your interim front desk manager. Full access, Carla. Authorize the credentials. Carla's voice echoed. Granted. The tablet in Elena's hands lit up, green. fully active. And in that moment, the contrast couldn't have been clearer. One screen alive, 3 dead. Aisha turned back to Gregory. You said I didn't belong here, and you said it loud. So let me say this just as clearly. She stepped forward, her voice still smooth, but iron beneath silk. You're not in charge anymore. Gregory's face fell. Lauren sat down behind the desk, blank and breathless. Kevin mumbled something under his breath and turned away. Guests began clapping. Not loud, not wild, but steady, purposeful. A reckoning in rhythm. And Aisha Carter? She didn't smile, didn't pose. She just breathed in the weight of the moment and let justice settle exactly where it belonged. Right here, in her lobby. Lauren rose from her chair, pale and shaking. You can't just erase people like this. Aisha's eyes didn't leave hers. I don't erase people. I document them. She turned toward the camera Sophie was still holding. And today, you documented yourselves. The phone caught the tremble in Kevin's hands as he reached toward the safe. Can I at least return her card? Elena stepped forward before Aisha could speak. You're no longer authorized to handle guest property. Step away. Kevin froze. Behind them, the younger security officer removed his earpiece and said quietly, We were told to intervene based on false claims. You followed what you were fed, Aisha replied. Next time, confirm your own plate. Gregory snapped, You've made your point. No, Aisha said, voice sharpening, You made mine. With every look, every word, every assumption. Carla's voice returned over the speaker. Miss Carter, our systems have archived all footage, audio, and log statements. Biased language has been flagged and stored for corporate legal review. Lauren's face fell. You were recording us, she asked, stunned. No, Aisha said. The system was. You walked into it the moment you walked over my name. Gregory's shoulders dropped. So what now? You want revenge? No, Aisha said. I want accountability. And that starts with clarity. She turned back to the guests. Dozens were watching now. Phones raised. Brows furrowed. This hotel doesn't tolerate profiling. Not in policy. Not in practice. Not in tone. Sophie whispered that part. Aisha looked down at her phone again. Carla. Begin the dismissal process. Gregory Vance. Lauren Hayes. Kevin Patel. Terminate access. Effective immediately. Confirmed. Carla responded. Credentials permanently revoked. Incident report logged. All 3 former employees stared down as their tablets flashed red again. This time with a single word across the screen. Removed. Gregory muttered. This is a circus. Aisha looked him squarely in the eye. No, she said. This is a reset. A pause. Then she addressed the lobby again. Some of you watched in silence. Others recorded. Some spoke up. I remember all of it. She turned back to Elena. You acted with integrity before you had certainty. That's leadership. Elena swallowed hard, overwhelmed. Thank you? I couldn't stay quiet. Aisha nodded, and you didn't. Then she looked to the guests. Let this place be known for how we correct wrongs, not how we hide them. Gregory turned to leave. Aisha didn't stop him. She didn't need to. Because in the new version of Horizon Grand, there was no door left for people like him. Gregory moved toward the exit, head low, but pride still dragging behind him. At the threshold, he paused at own last attempt at control. You humiliated us, he muttered, in front of everyone. Aisha didn't move. No, she said. You humiliated yourselves. I just stopped covering for it. He turned, defiant. You think firing people fixes the system. She stepped forward, not to intimidate, but to finish what began the moment he told her to leave. I'm not here to fix your system, Gregory. I'm here to replace it. His eyes narrowed. This was personal. No, she replied. This was professional. The problem is your professionalism was never personal to begin with. And with that, he left. The doors didn't close behind him gently, he hissed, then sealed like a verdict. Elena stood frozen behind the desk, her tablet still glowing green. Sophie lowered her phone, whispered, She's the quiet kind of powerful. Across the lobby, The mother with the toddler stepped forward. "Thank you for not backing down." Aisha nodded. No one should have to raise their voice just to be treated human. Elena glanced around. "What happens now?" Aisha turned to her, voice steady. "Now we reset everything." She approached the desk, placed her hand on the marble edge, the same spot where, just minutes ago, her card had been dismissed like trash. "Elena, pull up the audit log. I want a list of every unresolved guest complaint from the last 90 days. On it," Elena said, fingers already flying across the screen. "And check staff incident reports, especially those flagged by race or status. Escalate anything that was left pending." "Already filtering," Elena replied. Aisha turned to the security officers. "You to remain on site. But next time someone uses the word fraud without evidence, don't act. Ask." The younger guard nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Guests were still watching, but not with tension now, with quiet awe. She didn't just restore order. She redesigned it. Carla's voice returned. "Miss Carter, legal has been looped. The footage has already been clipped into a verified log. Press inquiries are pending. Tell PR," Aisha said. "We won't spin it, we'll show it." There was strength in her stillness. No revenge, no spectacle, just consequences. Measured, documented, delivered. Then a beep from Elena's tablet. "Got something," she said. "There's a complaint from last month. Solo guest. Woman of color. Same sweet tier. Flagged for identity mismatch. Denied entry." Aisha's jaw clenched. Who handled it? Elena scanned Gregory and Lauren. Aisha closed her eyes for half a second. This lobby doesn't need new furniture. It needs new memory. She opened her eyes, looked at every guest. This won't happen again. And when she said it, it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like policy. Not from anger, from authority. And just like that, Horizon Grand felt like it finally belonged to the name on the deed, not the ones behind the desk. Aisha Carter, owner, CEO. And for the first time that day, she took a seat. In her own lobby, the chair was firm, modern, upholstered in gray linen, framed in steel. It matched the rest of the Horizon Grand's design, sleek, upscale, understated. But to Aisha, it didn't matter, because when she finally sat down, it wasn't comfort she felt. It was reclamation. She rested her hands on her knees, her fingers still steady from the firestorm they had just survived. The room buzzed around her, murmurs, reassurances, a few guests checking out or checking back in. But no one looked at her the same way, because now they knew. She didn't need a press badge or a logo on her bag. No glittered name tag, no headline. She was the headline. Aisha exhaled slowly and leaned back. And in that moment, her mind pulled her somewhere else, not here, but years ago. She was 23, standing in the rain outside a boutique hotel in Atlanta. It was 2 a.m. Her flight had been delayed, and her meeting was at 8. She'd saved for months for the trip. New blazer, fresh resume. A dream meeting with a hospitality investor. And when she stepped into that lobby soaked, exhausted, the man at the counter looked her up and down, then said, "We're full." Even though she had a confirmation number, he refused to run her card, told her to come back with a manager. She spent the night in a rental car, wrapped in a coat too thin for October. She didn't cry. She planned. That was the night the blueprint for her first hotel was born. Not on paper, in her bones. In that parking lot, she decided no one who looked like her would ever have to prove they belonged. Not again. And now, she was here. Same industry, different weather, but the same message still alive in other people's mouths. Except this time, she didn't walk away. This time, she stayed. "Miss Carter," Elena's voice pulled her gently back to the present. Internal audit just flagged 5 more incidents tied to Gregory and Lauren, all unreported. Aisha nodded. Add them to the formal report. No omissions. Guests were still hovering nearby. A few had approached Elena to thank her. A mother offered to write a letter to corporate in support of her. But no one approached Aisha. Not out of fear, out of reverence. They could feel something had shifted. Not just in the hotel, in themselves. And for the first time in a long time, Aisha didn't feel like she had to explain or shrink or brace. She just sat where once she had been told to leave. And the walls, they didn't close in this time. They opened. Elena stood at the front desk, not beside it, not behind someone, but in charge. She wore no blazer, no title pinned to her chest, but the energy had shifted. Guests approached her not with suspicion, but with respect. She smiled, gave clear instructions, offered assistance like she'd done for years except now. People looked her in the eyes when she spoke. Kevin, Lauren, and Gregory were gone. The tension they built, the gatekeeping they performed gone with them. In its place, clarity. Aisha watched Elena from the lounge chair across the lobby, her expression unreadable. Not proud, not smug, just still. A calm you only earn after years of drowning. Elena glanced up and caught her eye. The desk looks different from this side. Aisha gave a soft nod. It should. A pause. Then Elena added, it feels lighter. Aisha stood and walked toward her, each step measured, grounded. She stopped just shy of the desk. There's something no one tells you, Aisha said, voice low enough for only Elena to hear. Power doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes, it shows up as responsibility no one else wants to carry. Elena held her gaze. I can handle it. I know. They didn't shake hands. They didn't pose. Because this wasn't a promotion. It was a passing of fire. Sophie, still lingering nearby, lowered her phone. For once, she wasn't recording. I just wanted to say, she started. Aisha turned to her. Thank you, Sophie finished, for not letting it slide. Aisha smiled faintly. You kept the camera steady. That matters. I used to think filming made me an outsider, Sophie admitted. But now I realize it made me a witness. Aisha nodded, and witnesses make history possible. From the far end of the lobby, the younger security officer approached, his hat now off. Eyes a little softer. Miss Carter, he said, I apologize for following false direction. You followed structure, Aisha replied. But next time, remember your badge doesn't absolve you. It obligates you. He nodded, understood. Aisha turned back to Elena. Start prepping HR files. I want a full staff review by Monday. Not just who performed, who protected. Copy that, Elena said. And elevate 3 candidates from the housekeeping team. The ones who always stay late and never get named. I already have to in mind, Elena smiled. Aisha looked toward the glass doors, the ones Gregory had once pointed her toward like an exit. Now they shimmered with morning light. Guests came and went, the city pulsed beyond. But inside this lobby, order had been restored. Not through shouting, not through chaos, but through a quiet shift. One desk, one truth, one woman who refused to disappear. And the ones who once dismissed her, now just footnotes. Aisha moved through the lobby slowly, intentionally. Not like a boss making rounds, like a builder inspecting her foundation. She stopped near the grand piano in the corner, untouched since the drama unfolded. A concierge passed by, giving her a respectful nod. Miss Carter, would you like music restored? Aisha looked at the keys. No, she said. Let the silence hold for now. She wanted the room to remember this stillness, this recalibration, this quiet power. Elena approached from the side. Audit team has logged all relevant entries. 5 prior incidents tied to profiling. 2 escalated by former employees, both unresolved. All now under corporate legal. Good, Aisha said. Send summaries to the board. They need to see how silence becomes culture. And the press? Elena asked. Aisha turned to the lobby, where guests were still murmuring, eyes wide, some nodding toward her, others whispering her name like myth. Release the footage, raw and edited. Elena raised a brow. Everything? Everything, Aisha replied. We don't need spin. We need reflection. Sophie, still nearby, caught that. She mouthed, respect. Aisha didn't respond, didn't need to. Her presence was answer enough. Carla's voice returned once more, this time more formal. Miss Carter, the shareholder dashboard has been updated. The board is aware. Several directors have already signaled support. Aisha paused. then spoke clearly. Draft a memo to all GMs across our properties. Title it, "What Bias Looks Like in a Suit." Distribute by end of day. Elena smiled slowly. That'll shake them. Aisha stepped toward the main elevator, but not to leave. Not yet. At the threshold, she turned. "This lobby," she said, voice calm, "was never about furniture. It was about who gets to stand here without being questioned." A pause. Then, that standard just changed. The bellhop from earlier, the one who'd paused mid-step with a suitcase, now stood a few feet away. Wide-eyed, he stepped forward hesitantly. "Miss Carter?" She turned to him. I watched the whole thing," he said. "Thank you. You made it safe for people like me to stay in the room." Aisha nodded, the barest smile crossing her lips. "Make sure you use the room," she said. "Open it for someone else, too." He nodded quickly, fist clenched at his sides, not in tension. In pride, Aisha looked at the elevator display, still idle. She could leave. She'd earned it, but she stayed a moment longer, just long enough to prove she wasn't in a hurry. Because real authority doesn't rush, and legacy isn't loud. It simply lasts. The lobby doors hissed open again. New guests stepped in, unaware of what had just unfolded. A couple from Toronto. A tech exec with Bluetooth still in his ear. A family trailing the toddlers with ice cream stains on their shirts. The city outside hadn't stopped, but inside, the frequency had shifted. The front desk was calmer now. Elena moved with confidence. The bellhop greeted without glancing for approval, and Aisha? She stood by the elevator not as a guest, not as a spectacle, but as standard. One of the new guests looked over, whispered, "Is that her?" Another replied, "Yeah, that's the owner." No one approached her now, because real presence doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. Aisha glanced toward the ceiling, the same one she had once overseen during renovation. She remembered debating over the lighting fixtures, warm tone or cool, brass trim or matte black. She'd chosen warm, because even in luxury, people deserved welcome. And for years, that warmth had been undermined by cold policy and colder minds. Not anymore. She stepped into the elevator, turned around to face the lobby one last time. Not out of nostalgia, but out of resolve. The security guard nodded at her as the doors began to close. Sophie, still holding her phone, didn't record this part. Some endings don't need cameras. Some victories don't need volume. As the elevator ascended, Aisha closed her eyes. Not to rest, but to remember. Charlotte, Atlanta, Paris, Seattle. All the lobbies that told her she didn't belong now condensed into one truth. She never needed permission. She was the key. And now, when they told her to leave, she built the building instead. Carla's voice returned, soft in her ear. "Penthouse ready, Miss Carter." Aisha exhaled. "Thank you." The doors opened. Sunlight spilled across the suite floor. Hardwood, quiet, her space. No checking in, no proving, just being. Because dignity doesn't come with volume, and justice doesn't need a parade. Power doesn't beg. It walks in, calm, stays silent, and owns the room.